Final segment, Roman Reigns pulls up. He wasn't catching the first 2.5 hours of this show, or the first 2 hours. He just pops in. He's going to do his 15 minutes, and then he's got to get out of here. He's like, the comic that comes at the end of the night, and everyone just, they're going to make 10 minutes for him. He walks out into the ring and reflects on Philadelphia. It's where I won my first title here on my daughter's birthday. This is also the city where I lost my last title, and the building where I won my first Royal Rumble. And wow, he thinks I just won the Rumble, and the very next city was Philadelphia. I'm like, yeah, small world, Roman. Crazy, isn't it? It's like, okay, we're getting a history of Roman's geography here. And he quizzes Philadelphia on who he should face at WrestleMania. They're all chanting CM Punk, and they boo Drew McIntyre. Punk, his music plays, and he comes out. Long walk to the ring, and he stares at Roman, but then he turns to the camera and has a message to deliver for Finn Balor, warning him of when he gets his hands on him. And Reigns is confused by this. He says, "You're interrupting me to speak about Finn Balor?" Punk says, "Excuse me, bitch? You're a visitor on my show. I call the shots on Raw here on Netflix." And Punk literally mocks the idea of Roman versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Like, God damn, thank God we're not selling pay-per-views anymore with that as a potential main event. And he pulls the crowd and then dares Roman to take the easy way out and choose Drew. Reigns reminds him that Drew is about 4 times bigger than you, and he made you cry over some plastic bracelet, which Punk is wearing, and warns Roman to be careful because when I got through with Drew, they ran out of staples after I broke them, and I beat him in the most violent match here in WWE, Hell in a Cell, and I put him in the dirt. Roman says, "Yeah, I beat Drew for 3 straight years." Oh. It's like, oh my God. Dude, they're literally trying to one-up each other on who beat Drew worse. Mm-hmm. Punk's comeback is, "Yeah, you and how many of your cousins?" And Reigns, this strikes a nerve. Not because it's diminishing Drew. Like we've established, he's a joke. But me and my cousins are the only reason this company is where it's at. And that you had a show and a company to come back to. So now I have learned that after Punk left, WWE almost went under. They saved the company from going out of business as well. I didn't realize things were in such dire straits for this company that was having some record years, even if creative was failing them. So that's good to know. I'm glad they pulled them out of the doldrums like this. Punk says, "You weren't he says you held this company hostage." And he references the comments he made on the Pat McAfee show that he can take his quarterly vacations, but no one has stepped up to replace him. He says, "Roman, no one is trying to follow what you did." He explains, "Reigns, you followed in my footsteps. You took Paul Heyman just like I had Paul Heyman. And just because you did it longer doesn't mean you did it better," referencing his 434-day title reign. It says, you choose to be a part-timer. I choose to go to 10 countries in 3 weeks. And he lists them all off. Which is a hell of a feat.
Sure. Of course. Yeah. Do you like, because he's referencing
the European tour and then Canada last week and then Saudi Arabia. And then they're back to the US. I'm sure 10 is still a legit number. Of places.
Impressive. But I mean, come on, in Europe, like, listen, it's like you can travel from
it's a couple train rides,
state to state, and
how many continents? I mean, it's still 3 continents.
Sure. Yes, it is impressive. Yes.
So, he states that he lists off the countries and says that he chose to bring Roman Reigns into this company with the Shield, and I'm proud of you, Roman, because you learned from the best, and you have 2 choices for WrestleMania. You have one option of someone you think you can beat, and the other option is someone who on your best day you can't touch because he's the best in the world. And there's one guy where the title makes Drew McIntyre, but then there's me who makes the title. so you can try and climb Mount Everest.
With no Sherpa.
With no Sherpa.
Yeah.
Reigns says he's making... My notes are all over the place here.
You're making all these towns because you took a 10-year vacation. If I was in your shoes, I would do the same, which is an awesome line. Great comeback.
Yes. After your 10-year vacation, he says, I did learn from you. I learned what not to do. And the fact is, you wouldn't be here without me. Who do you think they came to ask if it was okay when they wanted to bring you back? And then brings up that it was you that went on your best friend's podcast and made comments that made my life harder than it needed to be, which is not a lie at all. Like, if you want to trace when did the audiences really turn on Roman Reigns, it is a direct correlation to Punk talking about how his idea for the Shield would have been Chris Hero in that role, and that the company, he was the company's choice. Like, and that was no surprise. Like, as Liaki, like, this was the guy that they had huge aspirations for, and Reigns was going to be in the Shield. But the byproduct, and Punk was not even necessarily like burying this guy, but it was like he was there to help make this guy look good in the ring. Like, he was still very green. But the fallout of this was that this is the company's choice. Mm-hmm. And like 2 months after this is the Rumble that he wins and gets like totally booed out of the building, even when they bring Dwayne Johnson out to endorse him. And it's really the start of like the whole negative Roman Reigns sentiment. So that's probably the most we're going to dive into this podcast in the lead up to WrestleMania. I doubt we're going to air any audio clips of the pod. That would be surreal if a WWE aired anything from the Art of Wrestling.
I don't know if they'd want to open that box again anytime soon.
Yes. He says that I let you back in here and you screwed me. You took my wise man. You brainwashed my wise man. You even tried to brainwash me. I shook your hand at War Games, looked you in the eye like a man, and then on the way back after the match, you're behind my back and you mocked me like a young boy. And he says, I could choose you because you're a big star, because you're on Netflix and the best show, but I'm picking you because I hate you, and you will acknowledge me at WrestleMania. And there we go. We have our main event. And unlike previous years, we have no debate on what the main title is, on what the main event is for night 2, and what the A show is. They made it perfectly clear here from Roman Reigns and CM Punk that this is the A title, and Cody and Drew can go for the scraps on the B show. I mean, I thought this segment was excellent, and like, to an extent, you kind of have to incorporate Drew into this. I get it. But man, that thing about the best show, and that might have just been a line that, you know, Reigns was just going and said, but oh man, I just thought, like, coming out of this, like, they really made Drew and SmackDown look so inferior, and I hope there's just there needs to be a rebuttal, not just from Drew, from Cody as well. Like, they really need to have a pushback here.
You're expecting Cody to be Drew's opponent.
Well, it's
sure, Cody has,
it's like those are the two stars of the show. Yeah. Like, I think you look at them like those are the stars of the show, and whatever it was. But SmackDown shade aside and strays that Drew caught, I mean, it was an excellent segment, and 2.5 months in advance we have our Mania main event set up. So it certainly remains to be seen, like, how many appearances Reigns will have, at least until those final couple of weeks before Mania.
I would suggest he doesn't need too many, like, because you've already reached such a high here. Of course, you want to continue to simmer and maybe even build, but man, they couldn't have asked for a hotter start. This was a WrestleMania main event level promo segment between these two. And like, I always find it interesting because, like, when we talk about our best, whatever, promo of the year, you never talk about Roman Reigns. And I don't think anybody who watches this stuff that closely would ever consider Roman to be like a best promo caliber type of like talker. Best character, maybe. Most important character, most important person, most important wrestler, yeah, maybe. But best talker, not necessarily. But tonight, I thought he bested CM Punk, who many people would consider to be that person. So I think first, bravo to both men. I think they had some excellent lines and an excellent sort of like dialogue, whether it be like whoever helped them script it could just be the two of them, but I'm sure they had a whole bunch of people that were able to just create this like wonderfully organic and personal exchange that like I think wonderfully weaved, the narrative stuff with also some legitimate stuff in there to just kind of like add another layer of believability to it all. And you have to remember, like, okay, this wasn't always going to be the plan for WrestleMania. So like this is kind of they also had the job of like pivoting from, I guess at the last time we saw these two, was it War Game? Were they actually teaming together in War Games? Was that what they were referencing? I don't even remember at this point.
They teamed at last year's
War Games.
Last year's War Games. Yeah, that was the big. That set up the favor that Punk was owed.
And was it what was Roman referencing here? That they shook hands.
I guess on the way to the back. I don't even remember this afterwards.
What was the War Games this year? War Games 2020.
War Games this year.
My memory was so bad.
Well, the War Games ended last year with like Cody and Roman kind of.
San Diego,
face to face.
San Diego, they were on the same team. Cody, Roman, Punk, and the Usos versus Lesnar, The Vision, and Drew.
Okay, I didn't know which War Games he was referencing because
they teamed together for both War Games of the past 2 years. Anyway, so like this was never to be the destination. I would
because the handshake deal. I'm pretty sure that was like 2024 because that was the whole thing of those two being brought together. Okay. Anyway, regardless, it doesn't matter.
They were never meant to be in this position coming off of like the last time we probably saw these two together. So they had to like do the task of having to answer for that. Basically like wipe that and explain why that, was didn't mean anything. They even went as far as to explain why you might have seen these two do promotional appearances together or like in the recording booth together to record lines for Zootopia 2 or 3 or whatever Zootopia
Zebros.
Zebros, yeah. Like they even came up with an excuse so that like, yes, we know they're doing this, but you can also believe that that was before when they were cool temporarily. Now they actually hate each other and this is going to be real. I thought there was a lot of great attention like paid to all that. And also just the way it logically sort of flowed from one to another. Punk bringing up how like, this guy, is a part-timer essentially, but he kind of like, said, you've earned the right to do it. And then Roman coming back with a wonderful rebuttal saying how I would be making every day too over the past like three weeks if I took 10 years off. I just think like they did a great job. Like everybody involved in the segment did a great job of giving you a very satisfying sort of like battle on the microphone between two giants that again encompassed a bit of reality and a lot of narrative and just ultimately made you really want to see this match.
Yeah, I thought it was the way to like kick off a big Mania program. I imagine we don't see Roman till after Elimination Chamber. You could argue you could have held this off until after Chamber to set it up, but I think they're looking at it.
It's hotter after the night after the Rumble, I think.
I think they want to build this for that amount of time. They want this. Like the focus is Mania. The focus is not Elimination Chamber. The priority is not Finn Balor. Like that is a setup show. This is the bigger show, and we want to have this long of a runway to promote what feels like this is the number one match for WrestleMania. Nothing on SmackDown is going to usurp this. Like this feels like the big match for Mania.
It is, yeah. I mean, assuming Drew holds the title, I mean, Drew's not really on their level, right? So Drew versus anybody would be a step below.
As they told us.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I'm also not that worried about Drew because you're talking about like a guy who like one of the, like probably one of the sharpest, if not the sharpest tongue and sharpest fingers on as well, in Drew McIntyre. So I have to imagine he's got a few days to cook up a really great response and I'm looking forward to whatever that is. But I also think like, Cody is an interesting person in all of this because for the person, positioned as the ace of the company over the past 2 WrestleManias, he's not going to be this year. He's not going to be headlining a night 2. It'll definitely be these two.
Yeah, this segment, like it positioned, like these are the stars of the company. These are the number 1, number 2 stars of the company, and there's definitely a third that people would place above these two, especially over these last few years.
Yeah.
But
so you could expect some maybe shots back even from Cody.
There should be. Like you can certainly like roll with this and respond with it, but certainly like in the moment, like you really did belittle like SmackDown as like this inferior show, which is just, it's more so interesting that those comments were even utilized here. They weren't necessary, but
if they can use this and actually turn it to something like a little bit of a war between like that main event versus this main event, it could potentially lift both of them.
Can you imagine Punk coming out with like programming insider data to go over SmackDown's numbers falling under like 1 million with big data plus panel?
That would be
a 0.22. I wasn't doing 0.22s on cable. We haven't even gotten to the needle mover discourse between. That's how that all started with Reigns and Punk. Created a T-shirt.
Be a different level of pipe bomb. What would you call that?
The data dump.
Sure.
Yes. February on the Post Wrestling Cafe, we continue our review of Season 2 of WWE Unreal, including a big look at Seth Rollins' fake injury, which culminated in his appearance at SummerSlam. We're going to be looking back at Shinya Hashimoto with a special career retrospective on Rewind Away, plus a review of Extreme Rules 2011, as John Cena announces to the WWE audience that Osama bin Laden has been compromised to a permanent end. We'll also take a look at New Beginning in Osaka, TNA No Surrender, and new members can take advantage of a 7-day free trial. Go to postwrestlingcafe.com and jump on board in February.